Did you order tickets with the past few hours?
Yeah.
Are you sure? And I can do it.
No. So do I pay him now?
You'll pay once we implement this. It should be just.
Under Equi and Katz. Thank you. I just left the John. I saw him.
welcome. We're going to get started. I'm Kyle Dekoyan. I'm the executive director of the Poetry Project. It's great to be in a room with you. It's felt really encouraging and hopeful to be holding these events that we scheduled months before the pandemic. And I think this one feels particularly special because I think of Elaine, Equi, and Vincent Katz as poets who are really attuned to New York life and to urban encounter. And so I'm glad we can be in a room listening together. And I'm glad that we also have folks who are tuning in over a live stream. So thank you to our readers. Thank you to our guest introducer, Joanna Furman. Thank you everyone who's turned out and who's listening tonight. Before we begin, I want to share just a few notes. We do ask that you continue to wear your masks inside, though when you're outside, buying books, having a drink, talking with one another, you're totally welcome to be unmasked in the churchyard. We have books for sale for both poets. We hope that you'll buy and support their work. Restrooms are upstairs. We're going to be taking a break between readings, but you're welcome to leave the room, use the restroom during the readings if you need. I want to draw your attention toward a land acknowledgement statement around this particular space that we're gathered in tonight and which appears on the back side of your program. Elaine Equi is going to read first, then we'll have a break, and then we'll close the evening with a reading from Vincent Katz. And now I'm going to turn things over to Joanna Furman, who will introduce Elaine Equi.
Hi, this is a little weird, but in a great way. Oh, probably. Elaine Equi's most recent book is The Intangibles from Coffee House Press. Her other books include Voiceover, which won the San Francisco State Poetry Award, Ripple Effect, New and Selected Poems, which is a finalist for the LA Times Book Award, and on the short list for the Griffin Poetry Prize, and Sentences and Rain. Widely published and anthologized, her work has appeared in APR, Brooklyn Rail, Court Green, The Nation, The New Yorker Poetry, and in many editions of Best American Poetry. She teaches in the MFA program in creative writing at the New School. I love Elaine's work because it's perfect without being precious. It explores what it means to live in the current era, but never gets swallowed by the noise. There's always a joy to the language, even when it inhabits moments of wistfulness. In the poem, River of Students, from her most recent book, The Intangibles, Equi writes, "My sense of impermanence has turned out to be rather solid." As always, Equi's phrasing shows her lovely, ironic, often referred to as wry wit. But more than that, I think the line also gives us a hint at what makes Elaine's work so special. Often she writes about things that are pretty straightforward. A piece of fennel, a bottle of pills, another person's poetry. But she does it in a way that suggests its impermanence, or to put it another way, its intangibility. The poems are always about the subject, but also about language and the way the mind processes the world it encounters. This playful approach helps gives the poems that feeling of intangibility, that sly magic that makes them more than a sum of their parts. Like a drawing by Matisse, Equi's minimalism hints at a world much larger than what's on the page. It reminds me of how Kenneth Cook used to say, a good ending should give a poem an appropriate feeling of endlessness. Elaine's poems draw attention to what artists call negative space, the endlessness at the heart of what makes poetry sing. Please welcome Elaine Equi. Hi.
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 This is so amazing. I haven't done a live reading since like 2019, and I'm in a bit of a disoriented spot. I'm so very happy to see you all, and thank you, Joanna. That introduction was really, really beautiful. I want a copy of it. It's one of those intros like, can I get a copy of it? It's beautiful. Thank you, Kyle, for having me back to the Poetry Project, which is always a super special thrill to read here. And it's really great to be reading with Vincent. He's one of my dearest friends and favorite poets, and we've had many poetry adventures together over the years, and we've collaborated, but I don't think we've actually ever read together, just us. I was trying to remember today. No, it's time. It's here. We're going to do it. I'm so happy about it. And let's see what else. Oh, thank you all. Thank you, but thank you again for coming. It's just so amazing to be in a room sharing the space. It's great. And thank you for the people who are watching the live stream. I think my mom is, so shout out to my mom. Okay. My first poem, I'm going to read 3 or 4 poems from The Intangibles, and then I'm going to read new work. The first poem is about my love of / addiction to striped shirts. It's many years that I've had this problem, and so now, and it keeps getting worse. When you open my closet, you'll see like 3 pairs of jeans and a whole sea of stripes. And so this poem is called Like Banners My T-Shirts Hang. Olive and navy stripes next to coffee and cream ones. Navy and white ones next to mauve and tan. Black and white next to white and cobalt blue. Turquoise and white next to baby blue and orange. Royal blue and purple next to violet and red. Pink and black next to another blue and white, the longer one. Black and green next to green and gray. But where have my black and gray stripes gone? This poem has a fairy tale motif. It's called For Years I Suffered from a Strange Melody. I couldn't knit thistles into sweaters for swans, nor spin straw into gold records. I didn't have a ginger snap or bluebird to my name. The oven overheard me tell my story and called it rumpled, stilted, and half-baked. Then a dirty, stinky fog came and sat down next to me. But the moment I kissed its slobbering mist, it turned into a handsome prince who dropped the glass slipper he'd been carrying onto the floor, where it shattered into 1,000,000 princes, each more handsome than the last. And everyone shouted, L'chaim. This poem has a gods and goddesses motif, and it's actually dedicated to Vincent. It's called Alive with Myth, and it was inspired by his translations of ancient Greek and Roman poets. Alive with Myth. A myth is more insistent than a rumor. It has a thick skin, like the atmosphere of a planet. I've known Saturn's cold shoulder, Neptune and Vulcan's deluge and volcano. There it is. The watery fire of my father's temper, meant to be. Giddy Venus, Jupiter always ready to place a bet. Gemini's good and evil twins gadding about the forest. One can enter from any country, any century, spread out over time. I've seen how these old gods operate. Push and pull us, this way and that. Though distant, they are not dead. Still whisper inaudible, but unmistakable, words of warning and good cheer. This poem is called More Unisex Colognes. And I called it that because I actually wrote a poem called Unisex Colognes. And then I have another poem called Still More Unisex Colognes. So I think part of me really wants to design perfume. There's this one company called Imaginary Authors. I don't know if you've seen ads for it, and they make real perfume. But I am a real author, and I have imaginary perfume. Someone should get us together. Okay, so the way this poem works is it's in 3 sections, and there's a title. The title is the name of the perfume, and then there's a little poem, which is the ad for the perfume. The first one is Alibi. Buy 2, because you never know when you'll need one. Made from a complex blend of masking fragrances, this protean scent will cover your tracks. No questions asked. Martini. Crisp, dry, pristine, perpetually chill. Works equally well in an office or casual setting. Comes in 3 varieties: olive, apple, lemon twist. Obscurity. Soaking in this aromatic elixir is like having your own cloak of invisibility. A centuries-old favorite of poets, crackpots, and hermit monks. Guaranteed to keep you on the sidelines where you'll get your best work done. So I'm going to read new work now, but this next poem has the exact same form as the other poem. I really like that form of 3 little vignettes that have subtitles. And I looked at the perfume poem and I thought, oh, I could write about my feelings in that same objectified kind of way. So this is called Emotions, a Boxed Set. The first emotion is heebie-jeebies. It's the kind of tail-in-socket anxiety that plugs directly into the body, manifesting in myriad symptoms of dis-ease, heat, chills, itch, lightheadedness attached to a lead weight, a tilted feeling, an agitated remix of all of the above, the scalp, or is it the brain, aflame like a burning bush? Clarity. Being able to breathe. In, out. The billowing curtain of cilia and nerve endings stirred by an oxygen breeze. How long can I keep this up? What could be better? Appetite. Even when I'm not thinking about food, I'm thinking about food. I'm feeling the pulsations, the vibrations of phantom food calling. The word chicken becomes a mantra. Burgers appear like bloody daggers in Macbeth. It seems fitting in old age to return to an oral stage where food was of primary importance and time was structured around meals, when you looked at every object and wondered, edible or not? This poem is called Taking Stock, and it's kind of based on the mindfulness practice, mindfulness meditation of labeling things, which keeps you busy when you're worried. Taking stock. There I was mindfully minding my own business, industriously scanning every item in my body and sorting them into bins of seeing, hearing, feeling, thinking. Hearing, feeling, thinking, hearing. Labeling every thought leaves little time to think them, which is probably for the best. Labeling every pain or sensation can sometimes make them disappear. Perhaps they were in your mind after all, whatever that means. I wonder what will become of me and my ambition. Not living, but labeling. Not lost in thought, just thinking. This next poem also has that same form, and then it's the last one that has that form. It's the 3-part form. So this one I hardly ever write when I'm outside. I'm usually inside, but sometimes if I'm, I don't know what, sitting somewhere in a park or something, I'll write a poem. So this is called Washington Square, and it was in the summer. Choosing the hot seat. ignored the shade in favor of a sun-baked stone bench. Hours later, the ass, still warm, remembers. Beware of shirtless skateboarders cutting quick diagonals like knives frosting invisible cake. Tobacco breeze, as if the whole park were smoking a cigarette and had just exhaled. This poem is called I Saw Delight, which is actually a one-line poem by Robert Creeley, called an homage to Hank Williams, because Hank Williams had the song I Saw the Light. So this is I Saw Delight. I walked straight into the day's diamond mine, stuffing my eyes with as much dazzle as would fit in the back pockets of my brain and the dingy tote bag of my body. The shadows were dark and luxurious beneath silver trestles of light. I saw a woman carrying the trophy of a gold balloon, letting it bounce lightly above her head, her thoughts golden. Someone else was walking a diamond dog. Each of its hairs was polished to perfection. From every object, prisms of paths opened. Where did they all lead? Why would anyone want to be any place but here? Water. That's good. This is called Buying Time. Is time always transparent? The unwet water we live in like bacteria? It should come in different shades, be frosted and opaque. Perhaps if it were something we bought like any other commodity, there'd be more choices. Many people, myself included, feel there's not enough of it. But I don't want it so I can do more. I want it so I can do less, but take longer to do it. A lot longer. And a lot less. I want to find enlightenment during happy hour on a side street lit with neon rain. Take little sips with long naps in between. Blank bag. I dream of losing my purse again. Have gone out without my personhood. Am just a penniless ghost again, unable to buy a return ticket. The sales counter is the border of this country. Topography. We are congealed in them. Hats, phones, gestures buried deep in the billowing mountains. Once she was a small boy. Then he became an old woman stirring the pot. For a long time now, I haven't been I. Sometimes the only reason she gets out of bed is to decide which fragrance, which pronoun to wear. We all contain multitudes. There is work to be undone. Maple. Leave me alone with a jug of this syrup, and who knows what maple mayhem I'll get into. Once someone asked me for my favorite word. I wanted to say malice, but that sounded too mean, so I gave them maple. It did the trick, totally threw them off the scent of my aggression. But I honestly do love maple, with its high-pitched sweetness so piercing only a dog could hear it. The taste speaks to some darkness deep in my soul, where a sleepwalker stands bathed in the light of an open refrigerator, swigging the sticky liquid like bourbon straight from the bottle. I'm drinking the blood, she chants. I am drinking the blood of the forest. So one of the first things I do when I wake up is read my horoscope. But often I don't have my glasses or contact lenses in, so I misread it. And this was my horoscope a little while ago. It's your love horoscope. You fill the life you share with others with love and affliction. Loved ones annoy anytime they spend with you and appreciate you as a thoughtful and simulating lover. Your unnatural approach makes you an attractive and despicable partner to have. Something you can use to your advantage, especially if you find you're singular. This next poem is a ritual poem. It's called My Mother and I Send Each Other Circles. And my mom is 97 years old, and she lives in Naperville, Illinois. And I talk with her on the phone almost every day, and we have this custom before we get off the phone. We imagine the other person surrounded in a ball of light, of different colors. It's kind of like on Facebook when people say sending love, sending light, and then we add different colors. So I'm going to read this for my mom. This one's for you, if you're watching, listening. My mother and I send each other circles of light. We telepathically juggle globes of color, enclose ourselves in the space capsule of their spheres. I say, "Where are you?" She says, "I'm on the couch looking at the plant." I'm on the couch looking at the TV. I'm on the couch sprawled out with my feet on the cocktail table. I'm in the kitchen looking across. I'm in the bedroom laying down. Where are you? I say, I'm in the chair looking at the door. I'm standing up looking at the bookcase. I'm in the bedroom laying down. I'm sitting on the bed looking at the wall. Then one of us says, "What color would you like?" You choose. I'll take all gold. I'll take pure white. How about white with gold sprinkles? I want green, all different shades. What if we try a rainbow for today? Okay, stay right there. I'm sending it now. I'm still sending it. It's sent. This is a beginning of the pandemic poem. It's called Everyone into the Pyramid. Grab your pets and your iPads, your altars, your avatars and alter egos. I drink the last light. I am the hours that fly. Take your sex toys and your almonds dusted with pink Himalayan sea salt. Don't forget the book of passwords. Everyone into the pyramid now. And when we were spending so much time inside, it really felt like even the weather was inside. So this poem is called Indoor Weather. Outside, there's no shortage of weather. A symphony of seasons plays 24/7. But indoor weather is more like chamber music. A leaky cloud drips from the ceiling into the wooden pail of Chopin's piano. Certain homesick individuals bring commemorative weather, like a spicy wind from a distant land to circulate among their belongings and soothe them. Some examples of indoor weather from film would be the hallucinatory electrical storm that chases the reporter feigning insanity down the asylum hall in Sam Fuller's shock corridor. Or those inexplicable, demon-infested cold spots that love to haunt abodes from Amityville to Hill House. At the end of Citizen Kane, once the snow globe of memory breaks, flurries fill the room, swirling around Orson Welles' massive head. No use for his old sled in Xanadu. Idle chatter. Please distract me for another minute or two, another hour. Distract me for several more years. They're yours. Keep me from my true purpose, unless that purpose be to pursue distraction, like a scholar or a monk who shuns all else. On a carousel. Pineapple and blues for breakfast. Sweet orange tea in the afternoon. Winter lights, wounded brightness. I am thinking of Jared Leto's hair. He has amazing hair. Muse. I miss the airs we used to walk on, the word holes we'd sneak through. Perhaps you don't recognize me, sitting here, watching The Voice. This next poem is a psalm. I listened to a podcast about the Book of Psalms, and then I read the Book of Psalms, and then I thought, God damn it, I want to write a psalm. So here's my psalm. It's called O Thou My. O Thou My, I will raise a psalm like a palm tree to thee. I am but a cog in a song, a tortoise of no great purpose, a tourist in my own hometown. Hurry to me, for I am thy servant. O Lord, make no delay. An army of shadows seeks to devour my flesh. Confound my predators, and I will praise thee to infinity. I will praise thee when rich. I will praise thee in a ditch. I will praise thee like a rock star picking up a Grammy. Anoint me with calm, and I will raise a psalm like a palm tree to thee, O my Lord. Three more poems. This poem is about the pleasures of outdoor dining. You can see the progression, finally. We could sit outside, not inside, but outside. This is called Rain Picnic. It's actually, I was at the Smith right around here on 3rd Avenue. Eating seared salmon serenaded by rain. It's refreshing to watch it pour from our outdoor seating curbside shack. Really just a tin roof extended over the table like an umbrella. The golden beets, the pickled cabbage, everything tastes extra moist and delicious. And it is, I must say, entertaining to watch pedestrians hurry by getting soaked. Some stoic, others shrieking, most caught unaware since there was 0 chance of precipitation in today's forecast. But it's really coming down. So I order a second lemon mint soda, allowing us to linger another 15 minutes before getting the check. By then, the surprise shower has stopped as suddenly as it began. We should do this again more often. This is a poem about the letter V. It's called Nature Abhors a Vacuum Cleaner. Verlaine is great, but I prefer Vallejo. Vespers is a lovely time of day. I would describe myself as vibrantly vague. Being a Vestal virgin is a vocation, not a career. Vampires have always vacationed in Venice. On the veranda, Vincent and Vivian sipped vermouth. Under the viaduct, vagabonds smoked weed. The Visigoths would certainly vandalize, but the Vandals were not Visigoths. Bobby Vinton was known as the Polish Prince, Mel Torme as the Velvet Fog. Vicky is so vegan, she even feeds her Venus flytrap veggie burgers. The verdict is in. Vests are on the verge of making a big comeback. Everybody, strike a pose and vote, vote, vote. This is the last one. It's called Out of the Blank. We waited for word to arrive like a messiah in a stagecoach or a sheriff riding a thundercloud. But she came without a name, a sheer barely there-ness teaching us first to hum the song of the game show. Essentially nothing changed, only now it seemed more colorful and easily divided into categories, more fun. Suddenly everyone took up a hobby. Mine is getting in touch with my antediluvian self, my inner reptile. Fire and tools are still a long way off, and language, well, who's to say we haven't been speaking it all along? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. You read beautifully with all of the different ambient sounds. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back to hear Vincent Katz.
Gather your words, gaze at the fields of snow. Garden is gone, the cold wind blows. Kneel down to your mom, hold on to your dad's hand. Maybe that's it, don't forget. You're born with a blue. Born to the song, born just to know things that take off. I'm gonna guardian angel, gather my losses, keep them all safe till I come to life. Gather the weight, gold trick of the world, gap in my throat that I know. Though it's easier said when it comes from my head, but the needle of truth Never born with a blue vein, born to the song, born just to grow wings, then to take off. I'm gonna fly. Though there's nothing And when I come to the fold, meet the arms of my brother, feel the breath of the age. When I become well, some say the truth springs for reservoir seekers, but I think the truth sings to whoever listens. And we're born with a blue vein, born to the song, born just to my wings, then to take off. I'm gonna fly.
About 250. I'm gonna take this.
What's our intermission music? Quartet remix. Great. I take it.
Welcome back. It is a pleasure to be introducing someone whose introductions have meant so much to me, and I think to so many of us in this room. Vincent Katz's cultural imprint is vast and at the same time entirely intuitive. As a translator and as the curator of Dia's Readings and Contemporary Poetry series from 2010 to 2021, he has made a whole geography of correspondences across disciplines, languages, generations, and styles. The cover of the Dia anthology is a wonderful image from Paul Chan of a continuous entanglement, and that feels like a meaningful reflection of Vincent Katz's synaptic vision of how many spheres might cohere through all of their friction and counterpoint. But I'm especially grateful that tonight we are listening to Katz foremost as poet. And I think we find in the matter of the poems and equally in their form so much care and alertness to social life. The work is full of speech and conversation with the poet, alternately a participant and observer. And within this material, in Katz's particular treatment of the language in his poetry, something more ineffable comes forward. A true and original sensitivity for the gravity that keeps our orbits together. I read his most recent book, Broadway for Paul, a couple of times before this event was originally scheduled in 2020. And it's been special to return to these poems through the course of the pandemic. There is as much ardor in them for strangers and passerby as there is for the subjects of Katz's generous and attentive friendships. Rereading the work, particularly a series of daybook and journal poems, it feels clear that a parallel focal point for this poet is time. What is the nature of time across a friendship or in the work of translation or political solidarity, and most especially, what are those layers and dimensions of new time we make with our remembering? The impulse of the poem does not seem to me a gesture toward permanence so much as a celebration of all that is unfixed and flickering. The breath rises and falls with appreciation and release. Figures and light expire, then reassemble. In addition to Broadway for Paul, published last year by Knopf, Vincent Katz is the author of Southness from Lunar Chandelier Press and Swimming Home from Night Boat Books, as well as the complete elegies of Sextus Propertius from Princeton University Press, which received a National Translation Award from the American Literary Translators Association. He is the editor of Black Mountain College, Experiment in Art, and his writing on contemporary art and poetry has appeared in publications such as Apollo, Art in America, Art News, the Brooklyn Rail, and the Poetry Project newsletter. As curator of the Readings in Contemporary Poetry series at Dia Chelsea from 2010 to 2021, Katz edited the anthology Readings in Contemporary Poetry. In 2021, he collaborated with Sarah Sarhandi on the opera While There's Light, based on his translations of Propertius. Katz lives here in New York City, and it's a great pleasure and honor to welcome him to the Poetry Project.
Thank you, Kyle. It's just kind of mind-blowing to actually be here, I have to say, and see all of you here. It's a great experience. I came to a reading here earlier this year, and it was similarly nicely spread out like this. I like this new arrangement. And yeah, as Kyle mentioned, this was scheduled at the beginning of the pandemic and had to be postponed, so to be here now is fantastic. And kind of repeating in reverse what Elaine said, it's such a pleasure to read with her. She's, we've known each other, I think, since 1980, and we've been really close friends ever since then, and her poetry is so inspiring to me, and I feel like she's, you know, her poetry is so iconic, really, and means a lot to me, so. This reading, and this is the first time we've read together as a just, you know, two-person reading. So this reading means a lot to me, and for that, I would like to, again, thank all of you for being here, and to thank the Poetry Project, Kyle, Nicole, and Laura, and actually the staff of the project, the newsletter, the Recluse, which is the literary journal of the project. And I just want to actually, you know, the staff usually gets a staff notice, but I'm just going to actually read out everybody's name. So I'd like to also thank Roberto, Will, Kay, Imani, John, Wendy, Dave, Ivana, Katie, Lily, James, Maddie, Corey, Anna, Phoebe, Matt, Katie, Jonathan, Victoria, Matt, Lix, Rye, Rebecca, and Morgan. Respect. So for my reading, I'm going to be reading from two books, Broadway for Paul, which Kyle mentioned, and a book that came out this summer, published in Italy by Mazzoli Editions, called Previous Glances and Intense Togetherness, which is kind of an overview from going back to my teenage years up until the present. So I'm going to weave in Broadway for Paul when it comes up. So I'm going to go from, I think, 1980 to 2019, but, you know, pretty quickly, hopefully. The first poem was written in Chicago in 1980. Evening blossoms. 'Tis better to sink than to think. Such moments of morning profundity unattended come. Here lie the remains of last night's battle on my desk. Stones, fruit trees, and escali septem quae supersunt tragoidias. How difficult to survive in a blanket air cluttered with the sentiment of others, automobiles, and the fingers twinkling, curling about a drumstick, or curled around by a golden ring, sparkling in sapphire, that glowing stone, the fire of Sappho reclining in her lesbian glade. Oh, to you, singer, and to delicate Horace, pacing his Sabine estate, I dedicate my heart this moment, if it is mine to give. For the shadows of the supermarket and the reclining armchair press indissolubly at my sides, and up in the sky, the bird of destruction bears its pearly talons. Ancient harmony of those islands, flows even unto this present day through electrical contrivance, into the voices of young women and men of Motown, their eyes filled with disparate visions of the old world, and ours fixed on this street of age and dismay. Why have you changed toward me? You're acting strange toward me. But that fire cannot be ignored, which flames up in the evening and by morning has spent its tender bloom, leaving the traveler bent from exhaustion, yet somehow elated beyond belief. Next poem's from 1982, New York. Salmagundi. Horns blowing downstairs. What a distraction to Saturday dreams of arms, blankets full of hope, and tires. It gets to be late afternoon these days easily, as though or in spite that you casually arrive. If there were an ordinance to cease their arrangements, I'd appeal. They repel the soft, feathery moments I'd planned for before dinner and after. Will we meet X and Y and go to a club? As it turned out, no. But even though certain secrets were shared in the brief seconds that fall before evening, Salmagundi coalesces in the words you read me off pages stained beach or bleached fur. How far can we go towards the milky limit where ends insist on meeting? You see, the day passing made the horns stop, yet other strains fill the window. Strange pulses of fragrant summer. You, a glass of cognac, car horns. This is London, 1991. Cornwall Crescent. The clouds are coming in. Mitch Mitchell's birthday. Simon arranges to meet at Tottenham ticket barrier. Drunkenly stumble as at home, the hippie kids with long hair, that Robin Hood look. The paintings have been removed from the Courtauld Institute. Swans preen in Park Pond. Crack dealers said to abound in the Elgin, dreadlocked. She's ill and sleeps late. By Valpolicella, a fabulous meeting. Goebbels' diaries are scooped. You see hares in an early morning field. New York City, 2000. I think I wrote this on my way to meet Richard Hell, who's here. Hi, Richard. It's not about Richard, though, so that's why I didn't dedicate it to him. But in essence, it's for him. Fresh-faced beauty. I wandered lonely on East Broadway, bought a watch battery, and so knew the time again. A mist-enveloped dusk, crowds thinning as I ascend Bowery, lights twinkle on Manhattan Bridge, neons begin their significance. Crowds empty by spring, a deathless feel as of past springs, so calm and hushed, abandoned bank. But death is in the smells of rotting food and tenements' blank appeal. A friend just stepped out of my life, permanently, no big deal. Disillusioned, he said, with art, no money. He waters plants in a hotel, will die sad in a room, or ecstatic on brain juice. The city dies again, though sky maintains a pastel balance. His water towers rise over new generations of Low East Siders. Young girl walking dog by lounges glitter, clubs itinerant appeal. But you knew all those changes, kept pace through generations' ache. That somber trust repealed old query, clinging to a wet mattress, singing, aloft, aloft, afloat in a city where people walk and walk, their pants tightening, and you observe crescendo of night mist, Chrysler sirens now looming through Cooper branches, up to the university, death of mind, but hope is near and trust. And you too, near, so distant, hung up without emotion, empty goodbye, echoing as insane illumination, book finale, the end. The foot walks on to hoped for grace, writing, a turn on the street of poetry. Everyone telephones, cigarette, calmly bodies walk, calling alone. Jumping ahead to 2010. Bryant Portal. The months of 1 year decorate a portal. A carousel spins silently beyond a sea of sunbathers, also strangely silent. Only the noise of traffic, a hiccuping, then rising siren, wax at this island serenity, encouraging one to think on what art is. I know, John, she keeps returning to some place in the unconscious. In a sense, these are poems we were able to extract from the day's middle. Those women in yellow dresses walking silently on a yellow box. The city has become less sexual because it's less sensual. The only person who now seems sensual has white hair, has removed his shoes, and sits, his bare feet propped on another chair, reading. This is part of the community, his poem for Renee, February 6, 2014, for Renee. I'm toasting you today, Renee, with a Dawazakura Namagenshu. You are very beautiful. How come I never noticed that before? I want not only to toast, though, I want to share this drink with you. Don't tell me that's not possible. You and I both know well it is. In fact, it's inevitable. And maybe better now with this separation. You're over there, and I'm over here. The day is sunny, winter ice on the ground, like the years of poetry and art, somehow more vivid in winter. It turns out they're out of Dawazakura Namagenshu, so we're having a Zumi Judan instead. And the connection is all these thoughts across years, and multitudes in here and out in the sun have no idea what we are talking about. But we know very clearly what this is about. Tell me about Morocco, the naked painter, but more importantly, the naked paint. Tell me about that. Is there room on the sofa at the party? Is there time? Seems as though there was always tons of time if you were out. I want to invite you to sit down at this restaurant and have lunch with me. Uh, 2015, Ode to Spring, to Emily Skillings and Adam Fitzgerald. Bergdorf's appears to be enveloped in taffeta. Dieu est mon droit. And Michael Kors, Tours. The tulips are flagrant again. The cherry is out in the park, following the forsythia and magnolia. Sky climbs building even as it fades. Chill brightness clings, resonating in the cleft gray. Its fulsome register stinging as lights come. The light green leaves, tentative, appear highlighted with white and purple. Stocky clouds huddle above the park line. Ancient twisted trunks delight to flirt. The scent of petals. Colors of bursting that painter knew. Blossoms reach up to window. Buildings stretch and turn in late sun. Cherry is time near river here. Now I'll shift to Broadway for Paul, which encompasses poems written in 2017 and 2018. And I should say briefly that the Paul of the title is the painter Paul Rezica, another of those 94-year-old painters who's going very strong and actively working and showing. And I met him when I was a teenager in Skowhegan. I mean, he was at Skowhegan, and I went there to visit him. And we talked for about 10 minutes about poetry, basically. I mean, he knew I was into poetry, and he was a fan of Shelley, I remember, and I was probably reading Allen Ginsberg and Gary Snyder and Anne Waldman. And then we didn't see each other again. So 40 years later, I looked him up and he invited me to his studio. And then from that developed this chapbook, which is, it's called Figures of Beach and City, which he allowed me to photograph in his studio. So there's photographs in this book and a series of poems that I wrote. Some of them I just wrote after visiting him, such as Broadway for Paul. But another set I wrote, they're not really in response to specific works, but just in response to his work in general. And I took the titles of those poems from a series of gouaches that he did. Most of them are verbatim. Occasionally I changed a word or two. So I'll read some of those. Broadway for Paul. Now on 75th in June air, everyone's naked. Not in a hurry, I'll walk a while. There's an opening, but I'm not going to it. A girlfriend and Ann Carson in a restaurant, sitting alone. Further down, freer of people and manias, I still want to walk. See those younger take over their city. Those older exist in style still. Paul is younger, redolent of style, charm, and space of artist's place. In my best attempt, blue shoes, white pants, blue and white, small patterned long sleeve shirt. Young girl munches contently, walking from violin lesson with nanny. As another girl, so centered, food prepared, brought for her after practice. Rastafarian hair, gigantic bunch in cap. Tonight we'll let loose magnetic spliff rhythm. Purses hang from shoulders, backpacks, hair neatly organized in length. Legs displayed, breasts in see-through t-shirts near building. High school memory goddess took steps through this city, rumblings of sexual contentment. Bouncing, imagining, thinking when in high school. White-furred dog. The light goes down slowly. Citizens pass to private sounds. I stay longer. Savor specific light. Drink water from air. Feel length in this smell. Admittedly, comfort too of shops, leather or lakes. Mother with daughter exits, slowly in stages go apart down broad sidewalk. End of park, memory, smell of leaf, earth, of fertility, expansion down to concrete, other beauty, if enthusiasm lift. Final park border, main monument, Columbus high on Doric plinth, strange bat figure lowers head in sadness, submission. Gothic spire pierces distance. Design museums open late, but Broadway I drink in every last sip this Friday of walking, looking. Sun sinks light across streets, luxuriate in loss. Deep satisfaction out here among denizens. And this one is dedicated to Elaine Equi. Avenue. Thin hips jog past, too fast for contact. Summer is here and the avenue is full. Train to win or train within. Everyone is young and friendly. Tonight, the rips in her jeans are real. And so I observe, a couple out of Lamano comes and crosses holding hands. A woman, beautiful with hard hat, after days' labor wants someone cold. I again am correspondent, at least out here among my people. They who get ice cream, go to bars, opine, look for companionship. And now I'm going to read a couple of snippets from these journal poems that Kyle referred to. They're two companion pieces. The first one's called Main Hours and Days, and it's dedicated to Atel Adnan and Simone Fatal. This is the perfect hour for a canoe ride and a sport I invented called fish watching. I can hear one of the two loons from across the lake. Sure enough, the wind is blowing in my face, the wind of nature, or is it the wind of the earth? The day is sliding down, but still flourishes. There are animal sounds, birds' sudden animated chirping, and the humans have gone away. A few minutes of quiet, no questions, no answers. The bigger problems wrap around us, but at least there's an us. Sometimes it feels as though the best thing one can do is to do one's own work, whatever that may be, dancing, bricklaying, working at the library. Now, finally, the sun, even lower, has become more cutting and brilliant. It seems to say that these flies around the picnic table are eternal. Faintly visible filaments from cobwebs illuminated only now in branches. And the distance across from shade to this very last sunlight of this typical overlong day hints at something beyond. There's effervescence. And the next one, I'm going to read a short section. That was a short section from that piece. And this, I'm going to read a section from Autumn Days and Hours, which is dedicated to Anne Waldman. I guess ultimately I do have some knowledge. I was thinking I didn't, was expert in nothing. But I have a certain knowledge tonight, a warm night in the park, walking to the poetry reading, of how people become happy and stay happy. Rowboats on the pond, large leafy vegetation in the fountain. I'm looking for a place to sit, but I'm happy on this avenue. I have no need to deviate. In fact, I'll stop right here, leaning up against this polished granite facade in the shade of its scaffolding. This morning, I saw so many people on the subway. They were all so much themselves. There was space for each, even though it was crowded. The women were dressed so colorfully, as if in honor of the last day of summer. I saw at least 2 young women with long hair still wet from the shower. There's not a cloud in the sky today. On one seat, 4 people, different ages, all on their phones. One woman, the exception, stood reading her New Yorker. And then, looking the other way down the crowded car, I saw her. I could only see her hands. Her left held sheet music, while her right counted time on her thigh. For all of us in that moment, in that subway car by chance, in her music, which was our music too, she counted time. And now I'm going to read a few of these poems in response to Paul Rezica's work, with the titles coming from his gouaches. And this first one I wrote actually in Amherst, Massachusetts, visiting Emily Dickinson's home and garden. Family. She chose her family, relinquished inconsistency. Seems to have abandoned, but saved harmony. A garden existence. Rigor in place of grace. Grace instead of servitude. she was allowed to be. Encounter for Oliver. Yesterday, as we walked from the town and the light faded from the sky, I thought, how striking the dark shapes of buoys and barks in front of the still bay and land opposite. And I thought, poetry cannot suffice for this. Only painting could evince this light, and evincing might reach an equivalent sense of calm or overview. Photography could not. Then my son said, don't underestimate the power of the word. And I thought, perhaps. This morn, again I see the sea, land opposite, boats and air and clouds and wonder. Looking at the sea, I have today and tomorrow. I hear amplified voices. The sun shines, the arbor shades, and people talk. Actors write, writers act. It can be the same or not. And criticism can be praise, but love can only be love. Mysticism is obfuscation, she explains to anybody. The sea is salty. You taste your mouth and hurt feet. Now it is the sunset they have come to see. Islands lying on the horizon. We have today and tomorrow. Conversation by the sea. What do you feel makes life okay? You are constantly feeling older. The way people speak is changing. You no longer know what they want. What do you mean by that word, respect? I mean, knowing my life has been lived for a purpose, or purposes. I wake up and think, all is gone. But then, the clarity of morning reveals it is not. Something is here more valuable than diamonds, than fame. What is that something? Do you see yourself in other places? I'm trying not to imagine other places, but rather to inhabit the place I actually inhabit. If I am able to transfer comfort to others, able to let those younger take the reins, then perhaps I can live respected. Morning for Paul. In this light, I can be the city again. In this sacred precinct at city's heart, I am known and unknown. My parents brought me here. The light on that flat prow betides warmer days, people flooding, as now this coldest day they flow. What are those strange, antiquated figures look down on us confused? Has their ability shifted? Cafe tables in freezing light. August 2018, for Isaac with love. There's something about someone walking that makes New York City always amenable, even at its 90 degrees of August. With your music on, they're in a different world, but it's still your world. A certain extended cuff, a fit of pants, gives eternity its ever-present possibility. Not just one, but a ceaseless evolving array, each looking good, their best, despite the heat. On the corner, the heat no longer feels hot. It's simply the language we all speak. You are leaving this place temporarily. You will return, will always find a place here that is yours. But now, ahead, the future needs you and your kind. You who have always known better than the rest of us who is who, and the quality of their metal. It is still Wednesday. I am happy it is still the middle of the week. This week is a bracing blissfulness, a kind of waiting that is also pleasurable. There seems to be no limit to what one can do, and the heat perpetuates that feeling. Always walking to continue at its idiomatically leisurely pace. It is Thursday. We are still in a week with its languorousness and delicacy. We have time to shop and figure things out for the week ahead. We have time to see our friends, have lunch, and you have time to go pick up your guitar from the shop. Everything feels as though it is moving at its appropriate pace. We are beginning to learn to live with everything that is happening. Friday, there's the beauty of experience, the things we do together, like shopping for college, and the things we do separately, you going to a party, me staying home and writing. Suddenly, it is all exciting. There's the possibility of experience. Another day, look out the window, see the tree in the courtyard, the building behind, people starting their day, make a prayer. That's it. To find the beauty, the excitement, the possibility. It will all be good, even when it doesn't seem like it. Saturday night, out for a walk to friends in the rain. Sunday, the last day, the last night. There's no such thing as getting it right, except in life. There you can. Island. When someone looks at the sea, not when they're thinking vindictively about fame and why they didn't get their fair share, how to get back at someone, then the mind is free, momentarily, the human ability to look and be free. But that's only on the boat. On solid ground, mind grinds to thinking, to be alert, witty, back on terra firma. I want to scent water, fresh this time, get these sensations like of an earlier time, or maybe a time to come, when we all will have a sense of water, the birds. They continue to call through air. A quiet zone. Entering the park, I hear cicadas. In the distance, a low, foggy turret. Talking to people in and outside, a commonality near the monument. You see, the monument's not to some ancient general or governor. The green pond, an ornate fountain. I try to make sense of the city and our years. Ancient depths, not only theirs, but ours as well, and even they are human. Couples and coupled bikes chained on the heights temporarily this morning. Pond's glassy lime green reflection. A walk on earth and hand to trunk. And I'll finish with 2 more poems from this book that are after Broadway for Paul. So these are both from 2019. Keys and Ripples for Francesco. There comes a time when everything clarifies. You open your eyes to the day, and you are seeing someone who is there. So many departed, and only one begun. Here, where it is a new day, a surface is more than a surface. It is a support and way to see deeper and further detail the signals one sends. The body is a human landscape. The wedding ring is on the hook. Yoga extension into sky above home-protected animals. Love is 2 people meeting, face to face and heart to heart. The famous diver changes his mind. Halfway down, he doesn't want to anymore. Collections of materials, grants of superior intelligence, walking through the space between 2 minds, 2 hearts on earth. And this one's for a high school classmate, actually, who passed. for John. People create lives. Families occur as lives grow, together and with separation. Drums in the park at night and another music people congregate to. The music's mix and the people walking across in the dark. Rhythm comes out of the dark, bonding people, blending them. Back in the streets, people are walking. There is a slowdown. Is there no mystery, or is there something different from what appears? A tendency toward life that is not darkness.
Thank you, Vincent. It was a beautiful poem to end the evening on. And I'm remembering so much of what I love about being in this room is listening with people who are writing and taking notes while the readings are happening. Thank you to Vincent, thank you to Elaine, thank you to Joanna, thank you everyone for listening and for tuning in. Our next events are on this Friday and Saturday. We have 2 showings of a commissioned performance. The title of that is Whale Fall, and it's with Mike Lala and Iris McLuhan. And then on Monday, we have an online event, and that's a reading with Jess Abugatas and Jackie S. So I hope that we'll see you or encounter you or listen with you in some real or virtual space soon. Thank you again, and good night. Oh, and there are books for sale outside and a little bit of a wine reception. So we hope that you'll linger for a bit.